諸軍総大将官命より全蘇兵に次ぐこたびの栄えある海戦の一陣、我ら祖軍が受けたまった。
なんだこのバカでけえ声は。
隣の戦場だぞ。この戦で秦は滅ぶ。この戦は深く歴史に刻まれること間違いない。この大戦の口火を切る誉れ高き者は林北貴様だ。おう、
先方は。
よっしゃよっしゃ。我が名はその豪将林北。
林北、そこか。同金の敵は。
我こそこの壮大な戦の幕を開ける者である。死を揺るがすのは誰か。天を震わすのは誰か。沈め戦軍。戦軍突撃じゃ。将軍に続け。
さすが公将軍、そうこなくっちゃよ。俺たちも続くぞ。突撃だ軍隊。この大戦の口火を切るのは俺たちだ。
Oh shoot! It wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me unmute for a minute. But yeah, I had to go back, come back in. What's up, y'all? This your guy Ray Hama, one versus a million. I'm your host. I'm not your fan. I'm not your stand for. I am brother. One versus a million. Yeah, let's get into it. Yes, as we dive again with another edition of our Geek Verse. Yes, where we come with everything this of the news of the geeks and what's going on in geekdom. Yes, yes, we dive right into it. We come with everything that's of the geek verse. So, which is thankfully, thank God, which is which is a wide range of different stuff. It's it's like techie, artsy, and everything. So yeah. And this one, yeah, we got to dive into it, man. Talk about Berserk. Even though these chapters came out some time ago, some months ago, but this is me catching up. And yes, after this, I do plan on uh, having a anime night. But you see, come across some little technical difficulties with that because I'm trying to find some new apps because the apps that I had, the servers were down on those, so which is typical. I mean, it happens at times, like every other season, I mean, so it is what it is. But yeah, so some things, you just need to sometimes, those apps, they need time, for them to do their maintenance, whatever, or rename it to something else. So yeah, just all kinds of different politics with that one. So yeah. But before we dive into the main, course of this, I would like to share some videos because I will be giving this to you. You'll be watching it with me. I'm watching it again for the second time. Um, chapters Berserk chapter 385 and 386, which is what we'll be covering. This will be my second time covering it or watching it. So yeah, it's good to watch these things again because you'll get a more broader perspective. You know what I mean, and keep you sharp, of what's going on within the world of Berserk. So at least I do that. Uh, So I don't know about anybody else, but but yeah, but I plan on showing some videos. But they'll be coming from Marvelous Anime. Check those brothers out, man. Those guys do a good job. They're a great team. Marvelous Anime, whom also have a joint channel, a sister channel called Marvelous Videos. So yeah, check all that out. Nothing but fiery gems over there. Of of them covering and breaking down. Giving Easter eggs and breaking down all the anatomies of different characters. And so yeah, so you guys will love it. Check them out. So, but yeah, shout out to you guys for all you guys who come through. Please hit the like, share, and share. Hit the link for the Rumble so you can catch me live whenever I go live for anime or movie nights. And please bless the Hama Force with the Cash App. The Cash App link should be there in the description. I appreciate it. And yeah, and also too, I was wondering before I dive back into ChatGPT, uh, I was wondering how this sound because yeah, for my other device, for my music I have in the background. This is what I was kind of jamming to earlier as I was trying to, get ready for as I was putting together this content for you guys for us to watch together over here in the Hama Force with my brothers and sisters who are strong advocates of man and families and everything else. So yeah, uh, I was just jamming out over here, dude. I was like, yeah, man. Here, let me know if you guys hear this. So yeah, as you can see, what I mean, it's like some like house trance type of music, It's that you can use for the background, or that merges in the background well with I'll say elements and franchises such as Street Fighter, Tekken, you know, multiple different fighting games, Virtual Fighter. I don't know about Fatal Fury. Maybe, yeah, yeah. But well, yeah, that and shit. You can use it for like a futuristic, you know, scene, like, you know, in a like a sci-fi type of vibe, you know, if you wanted to like create something with AI, you know, to apply this type of music in the background and merge with that, you know, to like some like cyberpunk type of, you know, Fifth Element type of world and energy. So, you know, if you guys can follow me on that, yeah, because I get a little creative with that. You know, I like it when I hear this type of music, you know, in the background of movies and shows like that. It just merges well to me. So yeah. But but let's dive into our first video, you know, of our geek news. So this is me catching up with my brother for Neverworld. I know he's been coming out with some videos, so shout out to him, my guy from For Neverworld. So hopefully my audio is good, coming through good. So yeah. So here we go. Let's dive into it in our first video. If that sound is all right in the background, shit, I may play it like a little bit lower if need be, so I can have like some music in the background as I talk, but it's not overriding my voice type of thing. So yeah. So just the idea that just came up some time ago. Here we go.
Oh boy, Naruto fans already feel like the live action is in trouble. They feel like the live action Naruto movie is looking not so great already based on reports that are coming out on the casting, potential casting for one of the main characters of Naruto, one of the most important, one of the most iconic, one of the most just in general characters that people recognize and love from the franchise, Kakashi Hatake. Everybody knows that, yo, you gotta land certain characters right. Maybe certain characters you can get away with like some BS type of casting. Like, yo, certain characters maybe you could, you know, get away with sliding by without actually giving the greatest casting in the world, because every casting, every character, every actor ain't gonna be a 1 out of 1 like, yo, they did it or whatnot. Like, it's probably not gonna happen. But there's certain characters, especially the most important characters, that need to be treated accordingly. The big three of the series, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, of course, they gotta make sure that they get those perfectly. And of course, one of the most prominent characters that go along with them throughout all their missions, especially in part 1 and yeah, throughout all Shippuden down to the final battle, Kakashi. You gotta get Kakashi right. You gotta get the right actor. You gotta get the right look. You just gotta make sure that you get it right. But according to reports, it's looking like Dustin, Dan, you cretin. Where are we going with this, homie? What's happening? What are you telling me, Dustin? What are we doing here, fam? Because reports are coming in on a potential casting choice for Kakashi Hatake, and I'm already seeing the internet is acting up. The internet is already like, yo, why are we doing this right now, bruh? Why? Because, to be honest with you, I'm already getting flashbacks of when they actually did the casting for the live action American Death Note, where they casted, what was it, L, and everybody was up in arms or whatnot. I will say in retrospect, that casting actually wasn't that bad, considering that movie was a very, very, very bad film or whatnot. But this one in particular, well, let's read the report so you guys could get a better glimpse. We'll look at the actor, we'll see who he is, we'll read what's happening and whatnot. But yeah, Naruto fans are not happy so far, and we're off to already somewhat of a rocky start. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell to get all notifications. I'm gonna update you on this film, every casting choice, everything to go do with this film, and in the world of anime and manga, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, all the new stuff. I got you covered. If you subscribe, hit the buttons, the bell, all of that good. Yo, we here. All right, so based on the Hollywood Reporter, but I also seen this on Variety, so this is making its rounds, and I'm not 100% sure, like, why is this making its rounds? Is this the people behind the scenes trying to do testing to see how the audience feels about certain casting? Is this like the actor and his agency making a play to see if he could get the role? But Charles Melton in talks to play Kakashi in Dustin Daniel Cretton's Naruto movie. Don't get me wrong, bro. Let's start here. Don't get me wrong. Shout outs to dude, because you can tell that now that Brand New Day, the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie, which this Dustin Daniel Cretton is the director or whatnot, is like one of the most successful films of all time. It literally has already become one of the most successful films of all time. I'm noticing that they're starting to, like, even in this headline right here, they want to put Dustin Daniel Cretton's name all over the place. Like, basically, they're going to, I don't want to say spam, but they're going to really use this guy's name all the way through the roof for this Naruto film because of the high trust. Right now, when it comes to Dustin Daniel Cretton, it's a high trust society in this dude and what he's brought to the table with Spider-Man. So they're throwing his name all over the place. Expect to see this guy's name everywhere until he says, yo, hold on, until things start to backfire, and he might be like, yo, wait a minute, I'm just a director, chill out, and whatnot. But this guy, okay, Charles Melton in talks, and the image that they got of him, I'm gonna just be honest with you, I'm not really mad about it per se. Also, I think regardless of what casting, right? Unless they do something ridiculous, like they get Samuel L. Jackson to play Sakura or something like that, until we get to the finalized stage of seeing the film, it's really unfair, and it's very much so inaccurate to judge completely based off a picture. Chances are there's a good majority of people that are looking at this dude's image right now and saying, hey, that's not Kakashi. First of all, he's not in makeup, he doesn't have the wig, he doesn't have all the aesthetics and whatnot. So that's one thing. Second of all, sometimes the character doesn't necessarily have to look, or the actor doesn't have to look identical to the character to pull off the role. So let's not completely jump the gun and say like, oh, it's terrible, it's Dead on Arrival, what is this, oh my god, because let's just be honest here, there have been times where we've been wrong about that. Even if the film would be horrible, we found out like, yo, but at least that actor did what they came to do. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to, like, yo, does he look like, Kakashi, like, kind of looks closer to looking like me than he looked like Kakashi, just to be honest with you, which is a whole different ball game. Could I play Kakashi in the live action Naruto? Who knows? I know there's probably like a million people with so many mean-spirited comments waiting to let them off. Let them off. I'm good with it. Whatever you got to say about Neverworld as Kakashi in the Naruto film, let them fly. Go for it. I don't care. But let's continue on reading this article. Charles Melton, who recently landed an Emmy nomination, okay, for his role in the Netflix series Beef. What's beef? Beef is when you need two gats to go to sleep. Beef is when you let your enemies start your Jeep. Beef is when I see you, guaranteed to be in ICU. Now you through. Is in final negotiation. Whoa, okay. I didn't realize. I thought that this was just like maybe a play to see like what happens and whatnot. But if homie is in final negotiations for a key role in the live action Naruto, then this very well might be our Kakashi. We might be looking at our Kakashi right here. Yo, I'm Kakashi, everyone. Plot twist. But he is in final negotiations for a key role in the live action Naruto movie set up at Lionsgate. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. Who are these sources, fam? Who's giving the... Where's the sources coming from? Is it Dustin Daniel Cretton himself? Is it the guy in his agency? Where are these? Because again, this is on the Hollywood Reporter. I seen Variety post the same thing. So this is making rounds. Who is this? It must be trusted, right? It gotta be trusted. They're not gonna just. I don't think the Hollywood Reporter. And then again, I don't really extensively cover these. We gotta keep an eye out for these things. Next thing you know, Jackie Chan is playing Kakashi or something. I don't know. Well, maybe Jackie might be a little bit old for the role, but I'd still take it. I don't know. Dustin Daniel Cretton, who is currently in theaters for Spider-Man Brand New Day, and they're milking his name, is set to direct the movie based on the manga series by Masashi Kishimoto. Naruto is the coming-of-age story of a young and enthusiastic ninja named Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki, who wants to grow up to be the leader of his ninja village, but also happens to have the spirit of a nine-tailed demon fox inside of him. The story was serialized in Nihon's popular weekly Shonen Jump from 1999 to 2014, and later spawned a couple of yo, what happened with Spawn, bro? When's the Spawn revival happening? A couple of popular animated series that ran for years on Cartoon Network and Disney. Yo, shout out to Disney. We love Disney over here. This is Disney goes a long way for us. A search is underway to find a young actor to play Naruto. Melton is said to be playing Kakashi Hatake, the elite ninja mentor figure to the main character and his friends. Kakashi is one of the most popular characters in the long-running and massively popular manga. Lionsgate had no comment on the casting, so they didn't even want to say nothing. Avi Arad, Ari Arad, and Emmy Yu are producing for Arad Productions with Jeremy Lacham. Cretin is producing alongside Jaeyoon Moonford through his company, Hisako. Yo, shout out to Sako, Mankind, bro. Cretin, whose credits also include the Marvel movies Shang-Chi and The Legend of Ten Rings, is coming off the massive success of Spider-Man Brand New Day. With its current $2 billion at the global box office, it is one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Naruto is set to be next up for the director and is eyeing a production start around February 2027, according to sources. Melton broke out as a star on the long-running CW series Riverdale, where he played Reggie Mantle, and then transitioned into more prestige fare, beginning with Todd Haynes' May-December, where he starred opposite Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. His other credits have included Alex Garland's Warfare and Nicholas Winding's reference Her Private Hell. The actor is a longtime fan of anime and manga and is also extremely proficient in martial arts. He is a second-degree black belt Taekwondo and competed in the Junior Olympics held in Seoul, South Korea. So this person right here has not experienced Riverdale or any of the projects homie has been in. The look wise, yeah, it doesn't necessarily look like a, but honestly, like, it's just really the hair color, which, hello, you know, very few can pull off that hair. If you could pull off the color of Kakashi's hair, chances are you, like, I don't know, you some 11 out of 10 type of person, because very few can pull that color off. I literally, there's probably only been like one person that I've ever saw that hair color and I've been like, oh my god, that they just did it amazing. But anywho, like, honestly, I'm not really mad about this. I've seen so many people already saying like, uh-oh, Dustin Daniel Cretton fresh off Spider-Man Brand New Day and headed to some bullshit. Like, I don't really see that. I think maybe homie could do it. Like, it's just a matter of seeing the performance and seeing it in action. Like, until we get that finalized movie, until we actually see the movie, it's really hard to judge. You can't judge it off a potential casting. Like, he's in final negotiations, according to sources, but he's not even actually, you know, 100% landed the role. Neither have we gotten a trailer or any footage, test footage or anything like that to see him playing the role. Like, let's relax here. Every actor that plays a character doesn't look identical to the character immediately. And again, let's have a little bit of faith. I mean, we should have quite a bit of faith in this Dustin Daniel Cretton dude. Like, again, Spider-Man Brand New Day, heard nothing but great things. It's smashing the box office. Also did Shang-Chi. Like, maybe this guy knows what he's doing. So let's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I might be able to pull off Kakashi. We'll find out in time. Can a dude troll once in a while? Let a dude troll once in a while. Yeah, sometimes trolls are allowed, okay? But for those that are in an outrage, how do you feel about this? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this dude can make it happen? You think that this is our Kakashi? Or are you an outrage? You think this dude is nothing like Kakashi? What are they doing? Oh my god, they're ruining the Naruto film before it even began. Do you have faith in this thing? Like, where are we at with this whole thing? I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of negativity thus far. I'm gonna try my best to not fall into that pit of it, unless we get against some outlandish, like, I don't know, like Rod Wave is about to play. No. Rod Wave has Eno, bro. Oh snap. That's all I have for this one. I'm Fineb World. As always, people, have an awesome day. It looks like we might be having our Kakashi. We'll see what happens. Let's try not to be too brutal. Give this dude a chance. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, shit. Hey, you know, it is what it is. So, you know, long as dude does a good job somehow, you know, like put in his best, you know, as long as they all do their best with it. I mean, you know, hey, it might be cool, good, you know, fun to watch or whatever, you know. Hopefully it's something that's not going to leave you to where you have to be, highly critical of it and just, toss it to the side, like Dragon Ball, what was it? Dragon Ball Evolution. So, I mean, they've been able to do a pretty good job in everything. Technology has reached a greater height since then too. So, especially with creativity and everything else. So yeah, there's hardly any excuse for them to fuck this up. So hopefully they do a great job. This dude is playing the Kakashi. And yeah, so hopefully that's good. So yeah, but let's go into our next video. Next video is from Marvelous Anime, but it's not the main dish. So yeah, it's not our main topic. But you guys may find this very useful, because this video from them is another one of those over there, what, 10, your typical 10 to 15 different types of anime that's different titles of anime that's of a particular genre. So yeah, they'll do stuff like that, like 10 dark fantasy animes, that's highly recommended, type of thing. So yeah, it's something like that. So you guys may, want to take notes, get a pen and paper, take some notes, some animes that you may have seen or have not seen. And they may show some animes as well that you guys have not completed yet, like it has been with me sometimes. So it may be like that with you, anime that you guys was watching for like a minute, and then you fell off and because of life and everything else, and then you, in the midst of that, you was watching, you went on and started watching something else, so you wasn't able to get back to the show until later when you were reminded by something. So yeah, about video or about somebody else speaking on it. So yeah, so that's how it was with me. To when it comes to some of the videos, there's a big cover of where they be going off of a list of different, just naming off a list of different animes that came out that from over the past 20 years. So yeah, let's get into that. All right, let's go.
The Berserk anime was released in 1997, and even in 2026, it continues to amaze us with its impeccable writing, visceral action, unpredictability, and brilliant character development. Over a period of time, it's created a huge fan base across the world, and in many ways, justifying its title completely, the show never shied away from being unhinged, dark, and brutal. However, there are so many other rare and dark anime shows out there that simply fly under the radar. And if you are a fan of Berserk, then I think you're going to significantly benefit from watching these anime masterpieces. Stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to talk about 10 rare and dark anime masterpieces that have simply gone unnoticed by most Berserk fans. So, without wasting another second, let's jump right into it. The Hackenden, 1990 to 95. The Hackenden is an adaptation of the epic Japanese novel Nanso Satomi Hackenden. At 106 volumes, it's the longest novel in Japanese literature. This series is set at the beginning of the Sengoku period in Awa. This was a period of Japanese history in which social upheaval and civil wars were quite frequent. The princess of the Awa-based Satomi clan, Fuse, spiritually gives birth to 8 dog warriors who were scattered across the province of Awa. They're called dog warriors because the spiritual father of all these warriors was a demonically possessed dog. Together, they have to team up to save the Satomi clan. During a battle with the Anzai clan, Lord Satomi offers his daughter in marriage to his pet dog on one condition. The dog has to bring back the head of the enemy, Lord Anzai. When the dog actually ends up fulfilling that condition, Lord Satomi walks back on his promise. Although Princess Fuse still feels obligated to uphold the clan's honor, she goes ahead with the decision to marry the dog. Later on, she even becomes pregnant with its child. Unsurprisingly, her human fiancé doesn't take that well, so he kills both Fuse and the dog. After that, 8 beads fly out of Fuse's body and scatter, eventually becoming connected to 8 future warriors. The rest of the episodes introduce the Dog Warriors as they gradually meet and realize what their true mission is. It's hard to explain, but the execution of this plot is almost as wild as the plot itself. The show has a very experimental tone, especially when you compare it with most other Japanese anime. If you admire Japanese art, culture, and history, or you're a student of animation, you won't be disappointed here. The show incorporates an extremely unique approach to animation as it switches between several distinct visual styles throughout the series. Sometimes it even switches visual styles within the same episode. The Hakkenden is loaded with symbolism and fascinating imagery, and you should definitely check it out. Yoroden, Chronicle of the Warlord Period, 1987 to 88. This one's short, like really short. It only ran for 3 episodes from 1987 to 88, and in 1989, it was even re-edited into a feature film titled Wrath of the Ninja for English-speaking regions. Additionally, a manga version of the anime series was also created, which is, a little backwards from how it usually goes. The story is set during Japan's Great Civil War during the Sengoku period from 1581 to 1583. The main villain of the series is a demon warlord named Nobunaga, who kills everyone who dares to stand in his way. Kasumi no Eonosuke is the main protagonist of this series, and she escapes the destruction of her village in order to reunite the 3 mystical weapons that can end the unholy campaign of the demon warlord. Just like the Hakkenden, this series is also set during the Sengoku period. This anime has a badass synth-heavy soundtrack, and it spins an awesome tale about ninjas and magic swords. The action never shies away from blood and gore, and the animation and character designs are pretty cool as well. It's filled with creatures, monsters, violence, and magic, and if you're a fan of the awesome late 80s and early 90s anime aesthetic, you're definitely going to love it. The Dagger of Kamui, 1985. This anime movie is based on a novel series by Tetsuo Yano, and it was directed by Rin Taro and animated by Madhouse. Takuo Noda was the animation director, while Ryoto Uzaki and Ietsu Hayashi composed the music. The movie is about a young boy named Jiro who one day finds his adoptive mother and sister murdered in his home. To make matters even worse, he's wrongly and unfairly accused of the heinous crime, and after that, he leaves his village and meets a priest named Tenkai. Tenkai tells Jiro to kill a rogue ninja named Tarosa, which he does, and then he undergoes training in order to become an assassin. Unfortunately, he finds out years later that he's an orphan, and Tarosa was his real father. Tarosa worked for Tenkai until he fell in love with an Ainu woman and stopped working for him. During the rest of the movie, using the clues Tarosa had kept secret, Jiro teams up with a female ninja named Oyuki and a slave named Sam, and together they travel to Russia and America to search for the treasure in order to take their revenge against Tenkai. It's a slow-burn odyssey starring a young boy who goes on a journey to become a true ninja warrior. The movie oozes with brilliant imagery, and the musical score is absolutely beautiful. It's deeply tragic and heartbreaking in the best way possible, an underrated and forgotten anime classic that you simply can't afford to miss. Arion, 1986. Arion is an anime movie written and directed by the same guy who wrote the manga it's based on, Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. The movie revolves around a young shepherd who enters a world of suffering and horror where ordinary people are struggling to survive through the war. Eventually, he falls in love with a blind enslaved girl who's captured and imprisoned by Apollo. In order to rescue her, Arion leads an army of ordinary folks against powerful warlords, Zeus, Poseidon, and Pluto. You've probably figured it out at this point, but I'm still going to say it. Most of the characters and the overall plot of the movie are based on Greek mythology. If that sounds up your alley, it probably is. Throughout the movie, you'll find elaborate battles involving thousands of participants and multitudes of weapons. There's a scene in which the forces of Poseidon clash with the forces commanded by Ares and Athena. Another battle sequence shows a large group of ordinary mortals who, under the guidance of Arion, are armed with the god's own weapon, a solar-powered cannon, which was given to them by Prometheus for attacking Mount Olympus. The fluid animation is stunning and breathtaking, and this ancient mythical world is vividly brought to life on screen. Joe Hisashi composed the music for this one, and he's also known for his collaborations with Hayao Miyazaki in iconic Studio Ghibli movies like My Neighbor Totoro, Castle in the Sky, and Kiki's Delivery Service. So if you're a fan of 80s anime and refreshing and original takes on Greek mythology, this anime movie might be tailor-made for you. The Heroic Legend of Arslan, 1991 to 95. The Heroic Legend of Arslan is a 6-part animated series, and much like the other entries on this list, it's sadly been forgotten over time. In this series, the armies of Pars are overrun by the warrior fanatics of Lusitania. After escaping the destruction of his homeland, Prince Arslan assembles a team of 5 extraordinary allies. Those 5 allies are a priestess, an exiled warrior, a mischievous minstrel, an artist, and his attendant. All 5 of them help him fight against the Lusitanian warrior fanatics. They have to build an army in order to defeat 300,000 trained soldiers, including Lord Silvermask, who has ambitions to rule Pars. This epic Japanese anime borrows heavily from Persian myth. The musical score is atmospheric, and it's hard to find another series quite like this one. It switches designs, tone, look, and even feel from one episode to the next throughout the entire series. Rich in lore and politics, this one's bound to entertain you. Gwyn Saga, 2009. With just 26 episodes total, Gwyn Saga is based on a heroic fantasy novel series by Kaoru Kurimoto. The series revolves around the ancient kingdom of Paros, which has been invaded by the armies of Mongol. The invaders have killed the king and the queen, but their children, Princess Rinda and Prince Remus, the twin pearls of Paros, have escaped by using a strange device hidden in the palace. After getting lost in the forest of Rude, a strange leopard-headed amnesiac man named Gwyn rescues them from the Mongol soldiers. This underrated anime masterpiece is a certified tearjerker. You're going to cry and weep several times throughout the series. Gwyn is the sort of hero we should all look up to. He's wise, compassionate, and honorable. It has gorgeous animation, beautiful music, extremely well-developed characters, and impeccable storytelling. It's enriched with themes of right and wrong, good and evil, loyalty and betrayal, and there's no chance you'll regret watching it. Le Chevalier d'Eon, 2006 to 2007. This anime is a historical drama with a supernatural twist. As the title suggests, it's loosely based on a real-life historical figure named Chevalier d'Eon from 18th century France. It's set in the city of Paris in the year 1742. A woman's dead body is found in a coffin floating in the Seine River. The brother of the deceased woman, our protagonist, Chevalier d'Eon, is determined to find the murderer of his sister, but after investigating and finding the killer, he realizes things are far more sinister than they appear. He soon finds out that strange and supernatural things were involved in the murder of his sister, and now it's up to him to avenge that death. This one's historical and melodramatic in the most creative way possible. It's certain to keep you entertained with its colorful chemistry between the characters, and the choreography of the sword fights is pretty awesome. This one's an absolute visual treat that you can't afford to miss. Requiem from the Darkness, 2003. Adapted from the short stories of Natsuhiko Kyogoku, this is definitely something worth checking out. Requiem from the Darkness was released in 2003 and produced by TMS Entertainment. The series revolves around a writer named Momosuke Yamoka who is tired of writing riddles for children. He plans on collecting spooky and gruesome stories and publishing them in an anthology titled Hyaku Monogatari, which can be translated into English as 100 Tales. While he's researching old myths and legends, he meets a mysterious trio called the Ongyu. The Ongyu are detectives who are investigating the legends to bring the guilty ones to justice. Every time Momosuke meets the Ongyu, he has to come face to face with horrible and uncomfortable truths and battle with his own moral values. Although this series takes inspiration from the rich spiritual ancestry of Japan and various episodes feature stuff like tanukis, fox spirits, and willow women, its source of horror is not rooted in supernatural things. Instead, it's rooted in the real horrors committed by men themselves, and that makes it even more terrifying. If you're a fan of dark and atmospheric psychological thrillers, look no further. This one's an entertaining series with brutal and shocking violence. Kurozuka, 2008. This anime series is set in 12th century Japan, and the main protagonist of the series, Kuro, is loosely based on the legendary Japanese swordsman Minamoto no Yoshitsune. The plot of this series revolves around Kuro, who escapes into the mountains after losing to his brother. There, he meets a beautiful woman named Kuromitsu and falls in love with her. Eventually, he realizes that the woman is carrying a dark secret. As it turns out, she's immortal and continues to live for thousands of years as Japan evolves into a futuristic society. If the basic premise itself doesn't sound complicated enough, just wait until you actually sit down to watch it. The story is extremely complex, and with each episode, it keeps on bringing in new clues and pieces, which makes it interesting to watch on so many levels. And while you're watching it, the moment you think you know what's going to happen next is the moment the story throws a huge curveball at you. The animation is detailed and awesome, and if you're looking for an under-the-radar anime, this one's perfect for you. Shigorui Death Frenzy, 2007. This madhouse animated masterpiece was directed by Hiroshi Hamasaki. Shigurui Death Frenzy is set at the beginning of the Edo era during a time of peace. The series revolves around a fighting tournament held by Lord Tokugawa Tadanaga. The fights were fought with wooden swords in the past, but real swords will be used this time, and that's why the stakes are so high. In the tournament, Fujiki Genosuke and Irako Seigen are supposed to fight each other. Both of them are handicapped, as Fujiki only has one arm and Irako is blind, and both of them happen to be disciples of Iwamoto Kogen. They're extremely determined to be the successor of Iwamoto's school, but of course there can only be one winner, and the other one has to lose. It's a rich story of conflict, intertwining fates, and destinies. This show is bound to leave you with a broadened idea of what anime is artistically capable of, but beware, it's not for the faint of heart. It's gruesomely violent and shockingly gory. It doesn't have any funny scenes, and it only has a few redeemable and even likable characters. But that being said, the visual effects and soundtrack are top-notch. It has a very surreal tone, and it's moody and atmospheric in the best way possible. It takes itself seriously, but in a good way, and I don't think you can go wrong with this recommendation. Conclusion. In this video, we've talked about the criminally underrated anime that even the most devoted anime fans might not remember. I mean, not every anime gets as popular as Berserk, but these shows have their own charm and they deserve appreciation for it. I hope this list keeps you busy and occupied while waiting for the next chapter of Berserk to drop. That said, I'm sorry folks, but this is where we sign off. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, because that's the best way to see more videos like it. Otherwise, take care and stay tuned, because we'll be back with our next video before you know it.
Damn bullshit. I tell you, man, hey, there was a whole bunch of anime in there, dude. Oh yeah. I got my list. Wrath of the Ninja, I definitely want to watch that again because I used to watch that a few times actually. And I really did enjoy the music, the background music that they had for it. So yeah, it matched every scene and it was genuine, artwork, just filled with soul. You could tell that it was totally genuine and authentic, from the soul of the creator, of the writer. It's totally awesome, especially with some other titles. There's what he spit out, some that I've vaguely seen, before, and I was like, okay, that I vaguely remember and that I've seen before, and I was like, well, damn, that title, yeah, that definitely sounds familiar. I'm like, oh, they don't look decent. So yeah, there was a few of them where I had those like kind of reactions. I'm like, yeah, so I definitely will be checking out that whole list. So, and I hope you guys will do that too. So yeah, because that shit, yeah, it looks awesome. So, oh man, because there's a whole bunch of them too, like in spoken in Japanese, like Hakotu Kojo and all that. I'm like, okay, um, yeah, I got mixed up. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna just go back through and watch all of them. So I don't care how old they are. I don't care how old they are. Even though there's newer shit going out, but I'll still make time for it because as we speak, there's new shit coming out. There's like with ongoing shows and movies that are anime movies that are expected to come out too. So yeah, and all that shit. So yeah, and I will be checking out, this whole uh Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. So yeah, so let's get into our main event, man. Oh yeah. Let's go. Our boy is back. Hear me. Our boy is back, guts. And he's looking healthy. He he seems assured of himself. He doesn't seem like conflicted or and going just having like madness going on in his head, just with all this confusion and him just wrestling with this beast of darkness. So he seems assured, okay, of what he must do and who he is. Okay, know now who he is in his full. So we see that was the piece that was missing, from him all along, that he needed to ascend to see him and realize that he is greater than the notion of seeking revenge. That's what he had to conquer. And really, per se about, just taking out Griffith, but it's just in a way, in the mindset, in the heart, of how he does it, and how he chooses to go about it, like with the mindset of, and with revenge, in his heart, and thinking that he has to harbor the energy of evil in order to do it. Okay, yeah. So, but now, yeah, he sees a clearer, more of a holier path, if you will. So yeah, let's dive into it. This is chapter 385.
So, turns out Studio Gaga wasn't kidding when they said they were going to drop 3 consecutive chapters of Berserk in late June, because we just read the second of the 3. Oh boy, are we getting ready for the end game. That's because for the first time in over 20 chapters, and what feels like as many years, Guts finally feels like himself again. Chapter 385, which is aptly titled The Tide Turns, could just be the moment that puts the endgame of Berserk into motion, and we're here to talk all about it. So, without further ado, put on your spoiler hats and follow us into the abyss. This is everything that happened in Berserk, Chapter 385, Explained. The moment of rebirth. Why Daiba is worried about Guts' return. The chapter opens on Daiba, which is quite telling considering all of this is happening because of him. He's the one who decided the best thing for Guts was to be put inside a burial chamber and confront his true nature or die trying, and we think he was really hoping for the former. Despite the fact that he painted Guts and his brand of sacrifice as the reason behind Rakshas's attack on the Kushan capital, we thought it was odd Daiba took personal charge of him. If he really wanted to paint him as an irredeemable traitor, all he needed to do was order his execution and the Kushan Emperor would have obliged. No, it's more reasonable to assume that Daiba needed Guts in his possession and away from the capital for a reason, and that reason was unlocking his true potential. From the beginning, the entire Eastern Exile arc has been about getting Guts out of his despair, away from the self-destructive force that is the Berserker armor, and leading the forces of humanity to victory against the forces of the God Hand. Guts' biggest obstacle has, ironically, been himself, because instead of bouncing back with a plan like he usually does, this time he chose to give in to despair. Let's not forget that Daiba was the one who secured Guts' rescue from sea in the first place. He had a vision about the Black Beast languishing at sea on a wooden horse, and went along with Salat to rescue the crew of the Seahorse. He shared this vision with Salat, which is why the rescue/capture mission was a success, but even so, the Bakiraka prince suspected Daiba was still hiding something from him. Turns out he was right, just not in the way he or we thought. Daiba must have had a premonition that Guts would be the one to lead the forces of humanity to victory with his unique status as a half-divine being, but in order to get him to do that, he first needed to let go of his current biases and be reborn on an existential level. At the start of the chapter, Daiba's just sitting right there outside the stupa, floating in the air and wondering to himself if his gambit has succeeded. He thinks that he senses Guts, but his life force is so weak it might as well not be there. Daiba takes this to mean that the worst has come to pass. Guts didn't accept himself entirely. He failed in his rebirth ritual. Daiba thinks that there's nothing else they can do, and everyone that had followed Guts' funeral procession now notices something strange is going on. Salat's soldiers start moving closer to the stupa as his Tapasa call out his name, and Azan and Isidro also notice this, deciding to postpone their training in favor of solving the mystery. Apparently, Guts has been inside that stupa for a long time, long enough for Azan and Isidro to get into a habit of training nearby, which explains Daiba's disappointment and dismay. This is soft confirmed by the chapter's ending, where we see several tents surrounding the stupa, and to be completely fair to Daiba, if we were in his position, we'd probably be freaking out too. The events of chapter 384 essentially revealed to us Guts should be dead. He shouldn't have survived his birth, let alone his childhood, because his mom died before he was ever born. But her final wish, to see her child survive, was so strong and pure that some divine power intervened and revived Guts with its own essence. So, in a way, Guts has never been alive because he was supposed to have died. It's the light inside of him that keeps him alive, and he was finally told that in chapter 384. But that chapter also ended on a cliffhanger where the spirit that brings Guts to this realization also tells him that he and Griffith are exactly the same from a spiritual perspective. They're both divine souls inhabiting human bodies, and that's something Guts has been trying to distance himself from for a long time now. Being like Griffith goes beyond sharing an existential form for him. For the longest time, being associated with Griffith meant that Guts was losing his humanity, on the cusp of becoming a demon just like him. In fact, this was the entire reason behind the Beast of Darkness's existence, because that rabid dog wanted Guts to beat his enemy by becoming his enemy in more ways than one. The Beast wanted Guts to assault Casca like Griffith had, kill indiscriminately like Griffith does, and dedicate himself to the sole pursuit of vengeance, just how Griffith commits himself to the sole pursuit of his dream. That question of whether Guts will become the man he hates and the object of his revenge has been at the heart of Berserk for an extremely long time, and Guts has resisted it for all that time. He doesn't want to be seen as someone who's even remotely like Griffith because Griffith is evil. Then again, Guts has done things that many would consider to be evil, and for a good chunk of his life, he pursued vengeance instead of justice, which can only be achieved through bloodshed. So, when chapter 384 ended with that comparison, it was implied that Guts' reaction to this assertion is what will cement whether he ascends his mortality or sticks to it and possibly dies. This is why Daiba initially assumed that he'd failed to confront himself, because when we first see Guts in chapter 385, he's lying as still as a corpse. It looks like he's dead, that he's rejected becoming like Griffith in any way, shape, or form. But then, a water spirit falls on his face and he opens his eyes. Guts is alive. He's not done struggling yet, and that means he's finally embraced who he is and his similarities to the man he hates entirely. It's possible that Daiba didn't pick up on this from outside the stupa because its interior is technically cut off from the physical world, but he doesn't have to wait too long to learn the truth. As for what's happened to our protagonist after his quote-unquote awakening, well, the creation of a new god? Guts' new powers explained. When Guts returned to the mortal plane, he let out a cry as his child's spirit form merged with his adult man form and turned into a composite being. Now, at this time, this felt like a reconciliation between Guts' fractured past and present. It felt like he was being given the closure he desperately needed to be able to move on with his life, and it felt like a complete visual representation of the circle that is his divine life. But now, we know that the moment was more than that, and this is because when Guts wakes up from his journey of enlightenment, he's noticeably different. Before entering the stupa, Guts was dazed, confused, and defeated. His eyes had this hollow, overcast look to them that screamed depression and suicidal ideation, and he didn't even want to lift a damn finger. When Daiba's wizards surrounded Guts shortly before they led him to the stupa, we thought they were chanting mantras that bewitched him into walking towards his death. Now we know they were trying to keep what remained of his spirit alive long enough for it to transform. When Guts wakes up, his eye has cleared up, making him look like his old resolute self. His right eye is still gone, so is his left arm, but Guts seems to have gained something even more valuable. When he walked into the stupa, he couldn't help but notice that he was enveloped in pitch darkness. The interior of the stupa is meant to be a tomb after all, and corpses have no need for lights. In fact, it was so dark that Guts couldn't see in front of himself, and that's part of the reason he stepped onto the lotus leaf in the first place. But now he can see just fine, which can mean one of two things. Either his eyesight has improved so sharply that he can sense the faintest traces of light in a place with no light source, or he's glowing. And no, we're not joking about that. As he rises from the lotus leaf, Guts' body is covered in this thin white line, which can almost be mistaken for an aura. If you've watched our video breaking down chapter 384, and the one where we talk about fairies, both almost essential viewing at this point in the narrative, you know why we're taking this glowing thing so seriously. For those who haven't seen those videos, consider going back and watching them and coming back to this one, but to sum it up in a sentence, Guts is the avatar avatar of the opposing force to the idea of evil, which we're dubbing the God of Light. Whether it's his improved eyesight or bioluminescence, the fact that Guts can see is our first clue that he's no longer just a human, and allow us to clear up any doubt that it's just his eyes getting used to the dark. After getting all the way up, Guts thinks to himself that this is the way of it, and then he gets a look in his eyes that just tells you he wants to test things out. He walks to the stupa's door, puts his good hand over it, and pushes hard. You see the veins on his hand pop out, and while it feels like Guts needs to put a lot of force into this feat, in reality, he doesn't even break a sweat. The doors of the Kushan stupa are made of stone, which is several inches thick. Now, if Guts was rocking his metal arm, we could have bought him pushing the thing off its proverbial hinges with an insane amount of effort. For context, it took 2 of Salat's Tapasa to open those gates, and the Tapasa are warriors with such strength that they can crush skulls with their bare hands and skin so hard it deflects swords without armor. The Berserker armor probably would have just made him bite his way through the stone, but here, Guts puts his hand on the stone, applies pressure to it, doesn't even bare his teeth like he does when he's training, and knocks 1/2 of the stone pair leading into the stupa so far away that the curious soldiers surrounding the stupa have to hasten away from its entrance to save their lives. Salat had been wondering what the result of Daiba's gambit would look like, but the results shocked even him. Guts walked up to the space he opened up, cast his eye about everywhere, and wherever he looked, Kushan soldiers subverted their gaze or stared at him anxiously. Daiba started running towards him, and Isidro started crying because Guts was finally back to looking like himself. We know what the sun did to your eyes, young man, and there's no shame in being happy that your idol is back to normal. Even Puck was happy that Guts had returned, and he sensed him as Guts because that's presumably what his ode feels like to him. But then, Guts contacts him via thought transference, and Puck immediately knows that something about his companion has changed on a fundamental level. That's a new trick. Guts wasn't capable of performing thought transference before. The only way he had interacted with that kind of magic was through Shirke, and now he's showing up in Puck's thoughts like he is Shirke. And this might just be us, but it actually looks like Guts pulls Puck to himself as opposed to Puck flying to him after having been summoned. If that's true, then Guts also has some sort of spatial ability, and him developing that kind of power-up at this stage in the game changes everything. So, to sum this section up, after being reborn, Guts is now able to see, where there's no light, push away massive stone doors with one good hand, and communicate with other people using nothing more than his thoughts. He's operating on a level similar to Griffith, and that's why we asked the question that we did at the beginning of this section. Is this the birth of a new god? Or rather, is this the son of God finally embracing his divine existence? We suspect we'll get those answers either in the next chapter or soon after, because Guts and Puck seem to have a full-blown psychic conversation before the chapter ends. But there's something else that also needs to be addressed before we end this video, which just so happens to be the moment that makes us think Guts and Puck spoke with one another. What does Puck mean by Guts being connected? How people perceive Guts after his emergence. After reaching Guts, Puck flies behind him and takes a good hard look at his brand of sacrifice. He realizes that somehow Guts' talisman has been restored, and we say somehow because if the manga's internal narrative logic still holds, then it should have disappeared entirely several days ago. Well, it might not feel that way. Guts and his party have been in the Kushan capital several days, and Shirke has been out of sorts for weeks, according to Ivalira. This means that the only person who could have reapplied Guts' talisman wasn't there to do it before the time limit for reapplying it elapsed, and considering that time limit is just 3 days, Daiba's argument that Guts acted as the source of Rakshas's attack makes a certain degree of sense, given that the brand of sacrifice, without checks and balances, is a beacon for evil. Now, we went back and checked the chapters leading up to Guts' arrival at the stupa, and while it is true that the outlines of the talisman are still there on his brand, it's also true we only get to see the outlines. Flora's original talisman was this intricate piece that had several arcane symbols lodged in specific positions to apply a ward on Guts' brand, and we can't see those symbols anywhere in the chapters leading up to the stupa ritual. It's possible that Flora carved the outlines for the talisman into Guts' flesh and then used something else, like his blood perhaps, as ink. If that's true, then Guts recreating his talisman is what surprises Puck, because that's advanced magic he should have no way of wielding. He then looks back at the cocoon Guts was in, realizes something, and says that he now sees Guts has been connected. Guts says, "Right, onward," and goes back to staring at the crowd of Kushan in front of him. All this while, Daiba and Salat are losing their minds because the mere fact that Guts is still alive should technically be impossible. The Kushan sent people into the stupa for one reason and one reason only: to be entombed within a place of honor. Stupas are graves, and in Buddhism, it's tradition for the highest of Buddhist sages to lock themselves within stupas to await death. In Japan, priests would often eat food like acorn paste and other types of nuts to prepare their body for mummification even as they lived. While Daiba might have expected Guts' emergence, Salat most definitely didn't, because as soon as he saw Guts, he thought to himself that he had been arrogant in his ignorance. Before he was locked in the stupa, Salat disparaged Guts as a warrior who was broken because he'd meekly submitted to death when Rakshas attacked. He thought that Guts had become unreliable, and that Daiba's gambit wouldn't pay off because a man who didn't want to live wasn't a man who could fight to win. But now, he recalls tales of those legendary men who went into their tombs and emerged emboldened, empowered, and enlightened. And he feels like a fool. Daiba, in the meantime, can't even comprehend what Guts has become after his rebirth because he mutters that question to himself while holding his hands out as though he's trying to reach for God. The last shot of the chapter is an aerial point of view of the stupa with Guts standing over the fallen door, Puck at his shoulders, and everyone else surrounding him. We expect the next chapter to begin with Guts' decision on how best to proceed with using the Kushan in the war against Griffith, but for now, let's close this breakdown with our understanding of what Guts being connected could mean. In our minds, that could be a reference to one of many things. The first is that Guts is connected to the same kind of magic that the elves use, just on a much grander scale. This makes sense if our assumption about his talisman is true, and even if it isn't, the fact that Guts pushed that door open and can see in the dark and use thought transference is indicative of this. The second is that Guts is somehow connected to the prophecy that Puck was a part of. We've always had a suspicion that Puck isn't letting on everything he knows in full, and the revelation that his arrival on Elfhelm with Guts' entire party was prophesized only deepens our suspicions. If Puck's prophecy was to bring the fates of the Black Swordsman party together, then what is the purpose of that? Surely, a prophecy can't end with the meeting of people. Usually that's like the first step on a new adventure, or the penultimate step on an old one. Point is, we still don't know why Puck's prophecy exists in the first place, but if Guts is the axis around which it revolves, well, that would explain both the connected statement as well as why Puck is still around despite Elfhelm's destruction. Magical beings typically disappear once their place of power disappears, but despite losing all his family members, Puck's still in the physical world. And to build on this prophecy, as well as our previous statement, what if the connection Puck sensed is Guts' status as a divine child? If that is the case, then he's pretty much sensed the true Jesus of Berserk. Yet, the fact remains, all three of these things point to a greater whole, and that is Guts' new status as a living embodiment, messenger, and arbitrator for the God of Light. If that is indeed the connection Puck's feeling, then Guts has become a god in all but name, and whatever he does from this point onward will not only be necessary, it will be the will of the true God of Berserk. Having said that, we hope you enjoyed this video because that's all we got for you today. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Berserk content. We've been struggling a long time for days like this, so you don't want to be anywhere else next week when the final installment of this 3-chapter run drops. We'll see you guys soon with yet another Berserk video, so until then, stay safe out there, and as always, keep on struggling, strugglers, because if we've learned anything from the last 2 weeks, the struggle eventually pays off.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about it, son. Yeah, shout out to you. What's up, Leroy? Salute to you. Salute to you, brother. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for coming through. This is the Hama Force, our edition of the Geek Verse. Over here where we give news. Over here, relating to the Geek Verse, and all of this geekdom. From anime, comic books, to Hollywood shit. So yeah. But man, oh God. So but this one, man, before we go into chapter 386. Okay. Yes, that makes more sense. That statement our brother gave. We should shout out to him. Shout out to Marvelous Anime. Subscribe to them guys. Hey man, they do a great job over there. So shout out and subscribe. So it's simple. Just type in Marvelous Anime. So yeah, it's not nothing extra. Just Marvelous Anime or even Marvelous videos. And yeah, you will be highly intrigued. So what those guys got in their content definitely will cause you to subscribe. Something's wrong with you if you don't subscribe. All right. So yeah, but man, the statement bro gave that, where he mentioned about how Guts Right. He is the avatar of the opposing force of the god of Berserk, the idea of evil, the evil god of Berserk, the idea of evil. You know that he is the avatar of the opposing force. This holy force is there. The world of Berserk that's been there, which also brings up the question I'll mention. But yeah, so and with that boom and with that force, that he's given to, by giving up his desire for revenge, which is how he was able to merge with his uh I think his astral self, his child astral self, the which represents the piece of him, the half of him that he was missing, in order for him to become whole. And with that force, he was able to see the clarity of it, that he's greater than just some mere desire, of revenge, against Griffith. And in this power that he was meant to tap into by the causality of the uh, the holy uh, god of Berserk. That with this power, he's able to, his senses and everything is just heightened, and he's able to see through darkness and all that shit. And I'm like, okay, so, ooh, I'm wondering, okay, one of the questions I have is this: how will this fare when it comes to him end up getting to his typical uh demon fights at night, Oh, Ray, remember the seal on his neck, basically that uh that got healed up, and it's basically like redefined, because has little different markings than the one before. So which should represent that it's a stronger seal. All right. The seal, the seals up his brand that's on his neck. That may be, but what if they write for the demons to still appear just because the solstice and the interstice is basically like both the astral world and the physical world basically merged together. So because of that, there's a high chance of it popping up anyway, regardless of that. But with the seal, with him not having the seal, they're coming at a constant, and it's like a beacon, a strong beacon for them. So without that beacon, they'll be just wandering and attacking and going for their whatever their desired target is. And with this power, will he be able to defeat a lot of his enemies effortlessly? Effortlessly, and let's say a little nonchalantly because he's so powerful. Awesome. Um, and okay, in this new uh righteous force, the opposing force of the god of evil, of the god of the idea, the god who is basically the idea of evil. Huh. They've been there all this time, so that means the motherfuckers must have been dormant. Laying dormant for whatever reason. And allowing the idea of evil to get its rocks off, by causing or allowing so much evil to happen so it can continue to stay alive and enrich itself. Because all the evil that takes place, the essence and the power of that feeds the idea of evil. And its laws of causality. So let's go ahead and go into chapter 386 without further ado. Yeah.
If you thought the last couple of chapters of Berserk weren't what you expected, then we hope Studio Gaga managed to bring you right back with this one, because it seems like we finally got exactly what we were looking for. The last time Griffith and Casca showed up on page in the manga was in 2023, and a lot has happened in that time. Guts is finally in a position where he can take on and maybe even win against Griffith, but speaking of him, what exactly is he up to? What's his plan for the grand finale of the series? We're going to answer all of that and more in this video because it somehow managed to be an even bigger game changer than the last two chapters. This is Berserk chapter 386, explained, and I know you've been waiting for it, so let's get right into it. Casca is drawn to Griffith, and Shirke arrives in Falconia. The first panel of chapter 386 features Casca walking up to Griffith as he stares at the World Tree, and right off the bat, we're reminded that she's probably not in the correct frame of mind. The last time we saw Casca in person was chapter 372, and to say that she'd been placed under a hypnotic spell would be an understatement. She was actively questioning whether her real memories were real or not, because Griffith had created an alternate reality for her where she had always been a Falconian noblewoman. In 372, Casca walks around Griffith's castle in a noblewoman's clothes, she plays with the orphans that Princess Charlotte has been taking care of, and she has a steak and wine dinner. But then, she takes a bath, and her real memories fight back to the surface, and Casca snaps out of the illusion for just a minute. She kills a Falconian guard, literally disarms another, and then tries to escape back to Guts, but is eventually caught and put back under the spell. Her handmaidens have been secretly told to keep a close watch on her because Griffith can't have her escaping, considering she's his biggest vulnerability right now. But it looks like Casca keeps escaping anyways because she's supposed to be under guard at all times, and yet here she is. Casca looks out of breath, scared, but also kind of ecstatic, and maybe that's because she can sense her child within Griffith. We know that on some level, Casca is aware of the fact that her demon child is now a part of his body, and while she definitely looks like she's still under his spell, we've seen just how powerful Casca's bond to her child is. She was able to recognize it and care for it when she couldn't even form a coherent thought, and so it does make a certain amount of sense that she'd be able to sense it hypnotized as well. While she stares at Griffith from a distance, her brand begins to hurt and bleed, and she doesn't close the gap because someone else arrives for an audience with Griffith. We'll get to who that is in just a minute, but before we do, let's talk about what Casca's emergence from her cell means in terms of her detectability. After seeing Casca creep up on Griffith, the perspective shifts to the World Tree as the manga zooms into its branches, and then we see Shirke's outline burning brightly through the night sky. As Shirke's luminous body flies towards the Falcon's castle, she wonders to herself exactly how she's supposed to find a single needle of ode within this massive haystack when she senses something that leaves her eyes vacant. The scene then shifts to those two characters we mentioned earlier, and we'll get to them in a second, but Shirke's reaction could have been to something else as well. Let's address that first, because if we don't, the rest of this video isn't going to make sense. Now, it is possible that Shirke found Casca the moment she started looking for her. This is because Casca has a rather distinct ode distorter seared into her chest, the brand of sacrifice. Because she's so close to Griffith at the moment, her brand is bleeding, and that means it's active in a way. In the past, Chp has been able to recognize that there's something different about Guts and Casca because their brands distorted all ode within their vicinity. Perhaps she's detected that warp now and is stunned into silence because of how close it is to Griffith and also because of how disturbed it might seem. Ultimately, Griffith's hypnotic spell is circumventing Casca's regular state of mind, and if minds, bodies, and souls are interconnected, then Chp could have picked Casca out just by the out-of-balance feel of her ode. Chp is likely freaking out because she's just realized how dangerous and precarious her task really is, because if she gets anywhere near Griffith, her own luminous body might get sucked up into his. This nearly happened when he attacked Elfhelm, and had Farnace not anchored Chp's soul with her own, we'd have lost our favorite witch girl long ago. Given that Griffith doesn't seem to have noticed her for the duration of this chapter, Chp's probably safe for now, but the clock on her rescue mission is definitely ticking. Things are picking up pace rapidly in Berserk, and we suspect that Chp won't even have a full day to execute her plan. But there is another possibility as to why she looked like she'd seen a ghost when she seemingly detected Casca's ode, because there's another person in Falconia whose life force Chp's intimately familiar with. And while we don't see her recognizing that person, we definitely see it happening the other way around. Why is Sonia acting weird? Can she be realizing Griffith's true nature? As soon as we move away from Chp, the manga shifts to her only friend outside of her current group, Sonia, Griffith's oracle. Chp and Sonia met at Vertanis shortly before the city was engulfed by the Kushan invasion, and they struck up an unlikely friendship. In fact, Sonia even asked Chp to join the Falcons, but she declined because this entire adventure had made her realize she did have a home to return to after all. Sonia didn't press things, but she did spit out a prophecy that proclaimed she would meet Chp again one day. Perhaps that day is now, and it looks like Sonia doesn't like their reunion one bit because she acts quite odd throughout the entire issue. We all know that Sonia is quite bratty, generally speaking, and that she has a mega crush on Griffith. Sonia openly resents Queen Charlotte because she gets to marry Griffith, and she's the reason Griffith's human forces didn't desert him the day the world changed. They were quickly realizing that Griffith is employing demons to win the war, and that he himself might be evil, but Sonia was the one who changed their minds using thought transference en masse. Both Sonia and Chp are skilled enough to have an entire telepathic conversation within a heartbeat, and so, when we see Sonia looking up at the sky as soon as she senses Chp's ode, we know that something must have transpired between them. As soon as she sensed Chp and saw only birds, Sonia got this dark look in her eye. Mule Wolf Flame remarked that the migratory birds were finally returning to the city, and Sonia says that they've come a long way and that they should go report to Griffith. Now, here's the thing. Sonia and Chp see each other as an owl and a kite, and her comment about birds coming a long way can be interpreted as a reference to her knowledge of Chp's presence. Now, if she didn't suspect something fishy was going on, Sonia would have just told Mule that the witch they met in Vertanis is now in their city. Hell, she might have even told Griffith about Chp's presence, but she doesn't do that. In fact, the only thing she does do is take her helmet from Mule on their way to meeting Griffith, and once they get there, Sonia initially refuses to take a knee. Now, she's done similar things before because she usually sees herself as having a special place by Griffith's side, but this time, she's dead silent. Then, Mule gives Griffith a report from the battlefield, and things aren't looking great for Falconia. While it is true they've been able to secure their borders by fighting off all the monsters that now plague the world, many former kingdoms and empires' loyalists have chosen to become brigands instead of joining Falconia, and several others, who keep different gods and have different traditions, have migrated to the Kushan Empire. To sum it up, they brought in as many people as they could, using Griffith as the figurehead of the Holy See and the savior of mankind, and now people were beginning to reject him. Mule wanted to put this delicately, but it's interesting that Sonia is the one who tells him to speed it up and be direct. Once Griffith understands the situation, he tells them both to rise and thanks them for their service, and this is when Sonia rises forcefully and seems to revert to her old self for a moment. She calls the people rejecting Falconia fools set in their old ways because they were also rejecting progress by not being part of the most rapidly developing civilization in the world. And besides, it's not like Griffith and the Falconians are doing anything wrong, right? Such stupid people deserve what's coming to them is basically what Sonia says, and Mule is shocked by her words, but Griffith just calmly explains the situation. He says that everyone is understandably afraid and anxious because the world they knew has changed so much. That anxiety gives way to fear, which gives way to anger, and Mule, of course, is stunned by this piece of divine wisdom. He thinks to himself that only Griffith can perceive life in such a way, but Sonia, intriguingly, remains silent. When Mule apologizes on her behalf and says that they aren't as enlightened yet, Griffith tells him it's okay because they soon will be. But this is something they'll have to see to believe, and right before he explains the role he wants Sonia and Mule to play in the upcoming battles against the Kushan Empire, Sonia blurts out, "Enlightenment, enlightenment, gotta get more of that." Again, while this seems characteristic for Sonia, if you take those words and connect them to a possible conversation between her and Shirke about Griffith's true nature, then it suddenly makes sense why she'd say something like that in the first place. Usually, Sonia would have been all over Griffith, gushing about his hair and stuff like that, but here, her words are measured and meant to evoke reactions from him. She's clearly gauging his defenses, seeking a weak spot where she might penetrate and poke at the truth of the matter at hand, because there's something clearly stewing within her mind. As soon as she turns and starts running away, she notices Casca, and she gets another dark look in her eye. Mule sees Casca clutching her chest and looking afraid, and immediately goes to ask her if she's okay. Sonia pulls him away from her and says that she's just a maid and they should move on. This is particularly odd because Sonia and Mule saw Griffith return to Falconia with Casca in his arms. Sure, he could have told them that he's just some woman he rescued from his personal campaign with Zod, but then he made her a maid in the castle to keep her safe. But Sonia's look suggests she knows a lot more than she's letting on, and the more she knows can be one of two things. The first is that she figured out that Shirke is in Falconia to rescue Casca. It should be obvious considering she's barely been in the city, came into it under dubious circumstances, and has been kept in a haze that only someone with Sonia's keen eyes can see through. She's trying to deflect because her conversation with her friend has made her extremely wary of Griffith, and so she's acting aloof to most likely give Shirke the opportunity to save Casca. But then, there's the possibility that Sonia herself is somehow involved in keeping Casca sedated, and we have to say that these sinister looks she's been doling out in 386 do seem to align with that possibility. If that's true, then she's part of the cover-up squad keeping Griffith's image protected because Mule doesn't even seem to properly recognize her. Sonia clearly does, and is acting like she doesn't, but we've addressed both the possibilities behind her strange behavior. She's either just become aware of Griffith's true nature thanks to a conversation with her bestie Shirke, or she's always known it, been complicit in his worst acts, and is now worried about everything imploding, but doesn't want to act until she's 100% sure. We think it's the former, because Sonia feels a lot more guarded in Griffith's presence than she usually does, and it's not like her to let Mule talk to Griffith without having hugged him first. In our minds, it's looking a lot more likely that Sonia has finally discovered the truth about Griffith's nature, which is why she asks whether they're doing something wrong in the guise of a rhetorical question. As for what happens after Mule offers to help Casca, Sonia takes him out of the audience chamber, and then only Casca and Griffith remain. This is where the chapter's most explosive appearance occurs, because we'd nearly given up hope of ever seeing these guys again. The God Hand appears. Will the God Hand and Griffith betray each other? After Sonia and Mule leave, Griffith feels a thumping in his chest, and this kinda confirms that Casca was indeed drawn to her demon child, and not him, because that heartbeat belongs to the child. Griffith's heart is technically frozen, and so when he feels a pulse, he knows Casca is nearby. He turns on her with a frankly disgusting look on his face, asking her why she's there as her brand explodes with pain and blood. For a second, it feels like Griffith's just about to force himself on her once more or hurt her in some other way, and he probably would have, but then he gets interrupted by the four people he least wants to see, his fellow God Hand kinsmen, Void, Slan, Ubik and Conrad manifest themselves in the form of shadows, and they immediately try to kill Casca. Griffith's demon child-driven instinct protects her from harm, but it could also just have been him alone because this wasn't random provocation. The God Hand knows that Griffith's mortality is connected to Casca. If they kill her, then Griffith remains immortal because the Moonlight Boy will likely lose its transformational anchor. But the God Hand also just likes to kill, and Griffith protecting the very woman he violated to cement himself as a part of their organization is definitely a moment worthy of hazing in their eyes. And haze him they do, or rather they dress down Griffith as if he's a kindergartner playing with his toys, because that's literally how they see him. They viciously mock him for using all the power of the Abyss and the astral world and the idea of evil to play at being a conqueror. Void, Slan, Conrad, and Ubik laugh at Griffith for unleashing monsters upon the world only to defeat them himself, and they call his ambition so fragile that a mere breath could blow it all away. They even call Falconia Griffith's dollhouse, and this is the older siblings essentially dressing down little bro for using his talents in the pettiest possible way. This angers Griffith, and he starts using his spatial powers to dissipate his kinsmen's temporary forms, but they dissolve themselves before he can do it for them, and they seem to enter the World Tree. This confirms that the source of magic powering Fantasia is indeed the Abyss and the Vortex of Souls, because those deep layers are where the God Hand resides as well. While all of this unfolds, Casca's handmaidens return and take her back to her room. Right before he's confronted by his kinsman, Griffith senses that Guts has realized his true nature as a divine entity as well, and the chapter itself ends with the God Hand as the narrators, telling Griffith that what he wished for in the moment of his transformation was becoming king of his own prison. They know that Griffith can't risk swaying too far from the World Tree because if it's cut down, he loses everything. At the same time, he can't stay in the city indefinitely because he needs to lead armies, be a figurehead, marry Charlotte, and produce some heirs, and all of that is jeopardized by Casca's mere presence, so the God Hand knows Griffith's cornered himself, and so does he. How's he going to get out of this pickle? Well, you'll have to watch our predictions video for that, but as for now, thanks for sticking with us because that's all we got for you guys this time. Let us know your thoughts on Chapter 386 in the comments down below. I mean, like, what's going on with Shirke? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the best Berserk content on YouTube. We'll see you guys soon with yet another Berserk video, so until then, stay safe out there, and as always, keep on struggling, strugglers. See you.
Damn, dude, that was something else, dude. Yeah, so uh sure case she sees where and she knows where Casca's at. So I mean that at least the question, okay, how is she gonna be able to rescue Casca from Guts's from Griffith's powers? Because you can bet that he has trackers, of those people guarding and watching over Casca. And and with Griffith, it was funny and cool to see how the God Hand showed up through the shadows or through the blood of that was gushing out from the brand of Casca. So, and keep in mind she has no seal. And I don't think nor did Griffith ever think about, using a seal of his own to seal their, that to seal the power, of the brand, to keep basically the God Hand, the rest of the God Hand crew from popping up like they did. I'm surprised he ain't thought of that out there. But it's funny that they popped up and started mocking him, talking shit to him like he's a little bro, making fun of him, and his mission and what he's trying to do. So now that kind of leaves a question for A energy. I'm like, okay, is there any animosity between them, between Griffith and the rest of the God Hand? So Do they have something against Griffith, or do Griffith have something against them? You know, does he have plans to, overpower and take out the rest of the God Hand by, or in some way? So we have a video that relates to that. It's coming up that I downloaded while the video was playing. So yeah, so I can't wait for the next chapter 387. Their predictions for that's over there in their channel, or Marvelous Anime. Shout out to them. And speaking, I'll be sharing another video from them, one last video. So yeah, this is about Griffith and, on if the God Hand, if they fear him, or why they fear him. So let's go. Told you I ain't keeping you for that long.
I'll admit the title of this video is a weird statement to make. Anybody familiar with Berserk already knows that the God Hand isn't exactly scared of things. They're answerable only to the idea of evil itself, and we've seen that even terrifying villains like Nosferatu's Zod bow down to them. They don't even consider guts any more than an annoyance, so the fact that they might be worried about one of their own members becoming too powerful seems like a bit of a stretch. But Griffith isn't just anybody, He's the final member of the God Hand, and his ascension was very different from the other fours. Whether he's right or wrong is a whole other debate, of course, but I think most theories about the God Hand's wariness towards Griffith stems from his messy origin story. Sure, he had noble intentions, but his the ends justify the means approach has been anything but moral throughout the manga. That's why in today's video, I wanted to dig in to whether this theory has any substance and whether the manga has already given us evidence to support it. Gods mocking their own creation. I know it's been a while since chapter 386 was released, but I'm still thinking about it, so let me break down what happened quickly and how we basically saw the God Hand making fun of Griffith. This chapter opened with Casca in the Falcon's palace, and it's evident that she's not in the right frame of mind. She walks almost as if in a trance, wobbling slightly, and then her brand starts to bleed. The last time we saw Casca was chapter 372, and she was genuinely not her real self there. If you recall, she tried to escape after her real memories fought back, but Griffith couldn't let that happen. Anyways, back to 386, Sonia and Mule give their reports to Griffith and mention that the people are rejecting assimilation into Falconia. When they finally notice Casca stumbling towards them, out of breath, Griffith tries to ask her why she came all this way. However, before he can finish that sentence, the energy around them changes dramatically. As Casca yells in pain, he guards her with his cape almost instinctively, just as he did during the fight with Zod at the Hill of Swords. He doesn't want her to be overwhelmed, so he turns around and stares at the God Hand, only to be met with something really shocking. They're taking the absolute piss out of him. They remark that they wanted to see what he was up to, but upon seeing his actions, they simply call them absurd make-believe below even the antics of a child. Yikes. Ubik makes fun of him by saying, "Playing at being a conqueror, playing at being a hero." They say that Griffith managed to become a king, yes, but he's the king of his own dollhouse. This really is a masterclass in Berserk storytelling, because the very beings that are now Griffith's kin are mocking him to no end and calling his dream nothing but an elaborate illusion, essentially calling him a fraud to his face. After this little session, he manages to destroy their manifested forms and save Casca from more pain, but he's naturally left extremely embittered. Initially, when he shielded her with his cape, it looked like a quasi-heroic moment for him, but eventually, this chapter paints him as anything but a hero. He has no choice but to swallow the humiliation from the God Hand, and he doesn't even help Casca get up from the ground. For someone with extremely elaborate plans, he simply didn't see this coming. His expression towards the end genuinely looks like he's inches away from screaming in frustration because of how he just got schooled. On top of Guts coming back and his army facing troubles, he now realizes that he's not much different than Casca herself because the God Hand didn't really grant him any freedom. They just locked him in a bigger cage and gave him the illusion that he was free, and this is all Falconia ever was. So where does the theory of the God Hand being scared of Griffith becoming too powerful fit here? Because if you ask me, this dynamic we witnessed seemed like a bunch of schoolyard bullies mocking their latest helpless victim. It didn't feel like they were threatened by him, and they just saw him as annoying enough for them to manifest themselves and ask him to lock in and stop playing games. What Griffith actually is, and what he isn't. I've noticed that when people talk about how powerful Griffith is, they sometimes get confused between his God Hand status and the incarnation ceremony. In casual conversation, these two can get muddled up, and that's fine. I mean, Berserk is a complicated piece of literature. There's no judgment here. The reason I'm stressing this difference, though, is because this is what separates him from the 4 other members of the God Hand. Void, Slan, Ubik, and Conrad have existed as God Hand members longer than Femto, even if he is their final member. And this is why they can take certain liberties with him. Can you imagine them mocking each other or calling one another childish? Just in case we've got new readers here, this is what you have to know. During the eclipse, Griffith activated his Crimson Behelit and sacrificed the Band of the Falcon. This causes him to meet the force behind the God Hand, and he's informed of how he was chosen to become the judge of humanity's fate. The 5th position of the God Hand gets filled, and Griffith comes out the other side as Femto. But he didn't exactly achieve this by getting stronger or training ruthlessly, he was just handpicked by causality. At this time, however, Femto doesn't possess the physical body of Griffith, and it happens 2 years later during the incarnation ceremony at Albion. He's already a God Hand member, so this was just when he got his physical body back through the body of Guts and Casca's tainted child, which was twisted during the eclipse. It's this body that rules over Falconia, so he's the only God Hand member who holds on to his personal ambitions even after becoming Femto. He still wants to build an empire, be remembered, and exert his diabolical control over Casca, among other things. The other 4 members appear far more aligned with the larger purpose of the God Hand, while Griffith continues to pursue his own ambitions. Griffith thinks he can have his cake and eat it too, in a sense. This personal streak is exactly what I think could make the other 4 a little uneasy about their newest recruit. They know that they're simply extensions of an entity bigger than themselves, but Femto hasn't fully embraced that idea. Maybe this is why they're trying to put Griffith in his place and prevent him from becoming too powerful. What do you think? The tension. Whose dream is Falconia, really? In the non-canonical Chapter 83, Griffith was given a vague assurance that no matter what his actions were, whether they brought about salvation or suffering, they would ultimately be what humanity wanted. The God Hand exists to steer people into despair because that's what feeds the power they answer to. As I just mentioned, these members aren't chasing individual glory, which Griffith is trying to do. Falconia doesn't necessarily fit into the mold of what the idea of evil wants. It didn't tell Griffith to exactly create this utopian world. He was just given a really vague assurance that no matter what he did, whether his actions brought about salvation or suffering, that would just be what humanity wanted. In that same omitted chapter, he's also told to reshape his body suitably so that he can perform this task. The idea didn't explicitly tell him to create this kingdom. He was pretty much told to go and do his thing, and it would work out according to the former's wishes anyway. His dream just so happened to line up with what the idea of evil wanted, but they're still separate things. And in Chapter 386, this is exactly what the other 4 members were trying to point out to him. I feel that their mockery was just a way to give Griffith the reality check that his ambition wasn't the result. In fact, it wasn't just mockery, because it also sounded a lot like a subtle warning for him not to get too far ahead or think of betraying the God Hand for his own goals. His being a loyal servant to execute someone's plan is the main quest. Falconia is just something that conveniently fits into the puzzle. Now, I think this has 2 implications. As I mentioned, it could be an indication that the God Hand, and by extension, the idea of evil itself, views Griffith as disposable. Behind that humiliation was a veiled threat that said, stay within your limits and know your place in the grand scheme of things. At the same time, it could also indicate that the God Hand feels uncomfortable when they see Griffith continue with his personal endeavors while they have devoted themselves entirely to the idea of evil. While he certainly has extremely twisted ways to achieve his goals, building Falconia, becoming the Falcon of Light, and being remembered as humanity's messiah are things that might just tip the scales in the other direction, if you know what I mean. Griffith might be in denial about his role, but what if this excessive side questing rouses something in people like Guts, which could derail what the idea really wants? Why acting on his own is the scary part. When we talk about the God Hand, we acknowledge that they're all very ancient beings who have been manipulating causality for so long that there's no clear origin story for them. In contrast, Griffith is the Gen Z hire who does things differently. He rules a kingdom, he has a physical body, he's got an army, and he's still very much governed by his own personal desires. It's improbable that he'll try to take on Void, Ubik, Slan, and Conrad in some cosmic showdown, because there is a very real power gap. But the fact that he is so deeply engaged with the physical world that he can act independently according to his own whims is definitely a thorn in their side. Some fans say that this connection to the physical world Griffith still has is actually just the Moonlight Boy acting through him. And I mean, they share the same body after all, and every full moon night he even visits Casca. So Griffith's softer, more humane instincts, particularly those that are centered around her, like that time he shielded her in Chapter 386, could be from that side of him rather than Femto. If the Moonlight Boy weren't in the picture, Griffith might have fully embraced his identity as Femto and become more like the other 4 God Hand members. As interesting as that might be, it's still just a fan theory. The manga hasn't stated it anywhere, so as far as canon goes, Griffith is doing everything of his own will. As the Falcon of Darkness, he might be the 5th finger of the God Hand, but he's still the only one who's built something in the physical world that, in theory, could run according to his wishes and not the God Hands. Whether this is significant enough to be a threat to the idea of evil can be debated endlessly, but it certainly is something very different than what the other 4 have ever had to encounter among themselves. Has the God Hand ever been here before? In Berserk Volume 41, Vision of Death, there's a small detail that many people might not remember. Yes, the God Hand is this insanely powerful and ancient group, but the members weren't always what we know them as currently. In this flashback, we see Void standing at a temporal standpoint, and he's accompanied by 4 other beings. At first glance, you might not notice the difference, but these 4 entities aren't Slan, Ubik, Conrad, or Femto. This flashback happened well in the past, so that last one's a given, but all of them were described as being different from Void's current kinsmen. During this time, all of them had witnessed someone wearing the Berserker armor, and of course, by the time the manga starts, these 4 are nowhere to be seen, and it's never really explained what happened to them. The only logical inference we can draw from that is that Void was the singular being from that earlier timeline who remains in the God Hand, as the author has never spoken about the fates of the others we saw with him during that flashback. Most likely, they were replaced by newer members, because we know that the eclipse associated with the birth of a new God Hand member occurs on a 216-year cycle. The Behelit chooses its owner, and this person becomes a member, as we've seen happen with Griffith. We have to assume the process was no different when it came to Ubik, Slan, or Conrad, and when we saw the God Hand for the first time, only the index finger was missing. Now, this spot has been taken by Griffith/Femto, but we can assume that within the group, Void stands at the top of the hierarchy since he occupies the thumb position. As the oldest member of the group and the only one who can perform the Invocation of Doom, we can reasonably regard Void as the de facto leader of the God Hand. Okay, but you might be wondering why this is relevant to our discussion. Well, think about it. If the God Hand had 5 members initially, and we have no idea what happened to 4 of them before the current lineup came to be, then it's entirely possible that this membership is not necessarily a permanent gig. Something happened in the past that led to Void becoming the only one that survived. Maybe the members were replaced peacefully, but this is Berserk we're talking about, so that's very unlikely. Hence, when fans say that the present 4 might get worked up about Griffith becoming too powerful on his own, it's not entirely unfounded. Slan, Ubik, and Conrad are replacements, and whatever happened off-page can happen again, right? Once again, this is a fan theory because there's so much vagueness about this flashback I mentioned that we really have no choice but to shoot in the dark. Griffith is the index finger of the God Hand, placing him directly below Void in the symbolic arrangement, but that doesn't necessarily indicate a power ranking. Then again, he did just join them, and the others have centuries of experience, so calling the new guy a threat might be a bit of an exaggeration. Either way, what stands is that membership in the God Hand is not necessarily permanent, so this goes for Griffith himself as well. Guts just got an origin twist too. I know everyone's losing their mind after Griffith got roasted by the God Hand in 386, but the previous 2 chapters have really began to set up the endgame of the manga. After Casca was kidnapped by Griffith, Guts was confined to a sacred tomb by the Kushan priests, and he faces his psyche. He confronts the very idea of who he is and comes to know that he belongs neither to the real world nor the spirit realm. He also comes to understand that he shares a profound connection with Griffith, with both being described as beings of the interstice. That last panel where Guts and Griffith are shown side by side is remarkable. Fans have already talked about him being the divine opposite to Griffith, and while the manga doesn't use this term exactly, the rendition is clear enough to indicate that Guts is basically that. You can already see the final battle approaching in the distance. Anyways, this spiritual realization allows him to overcome his physical limitations, and he wakes up stronger than ever. We also see him displaying physical abilities that resemble what we have previously seen from the Berserker armor. I mean, he was always strong, but this is some supernatural strength, which he will most definitely need for what's about to happen. This newfound power, the Berserker armor, and the Dragon Slayer could all become important if he eventually has to face the God Hand, one finger at a time. The fact that Guts got a power-up around the same time that the God Hand mocked Griffith for his childish dreams is certainly no coincidence. This is the foundation the manga's finale will be standing on. Where could this be going? Oh boy, I wish I had a straightforward theory for you about how Berserk is going to end or what will happen in chapter 387. We know that Kentaro Miura once said he didn't think he could bring such a long, grim story to an outright grim ending, but that could mean anything really. For now, I agree with fans who are portraying the God Hand's roast as something more than just asserting dominance over their newest member. They're not happy with how he's doing things, obviously, but we're never told exactly why that is. They humiliate Griffith and he doesn't get a chance to rebuke them, but it angers him to the point where he simply becomes speechless. This could be the starting point of his ultimate betrayal of them. Some fans have suggested that 386 could point to a temporary peace between Griffith and Guts because they'll have to work together to take down the God Hand before fighting each other. Earlier, all of us assumed that the God Hand and Griffith were on the same page and that they existed to carry out Femto's will, but if that had been the case, they wouldn't have gotten worked up over how he was ruling Falconia. To them, he's simply not creating enough chaos, which is quite literally his job description. Instead, he's focused on making himself a messiah. If this relationship remains sour, and I think it will, the God Hand might find themselves facing off against Griffith and his massively powerful army. Many fans are already saying the latest chapter was the first sign of his downfall, especially now that Guts is back in a big way. If the God Hand really wants to get rid of Femto without getting their hands dirty, Guts is the obvious answer. I'm not sure if we'll see this in the next chapter, but many fans have also been questioning whether Sonya will remain loyal to Griffith until the end. So far, we've seen an almost fanatical obsession with Griffith on her part, but there's really no way to say that this will never change. I'm also keen to see what happens to the Moonlight Child and Casca, because I think neither of them will make it out alive in the end. As for who wins between Guts and Griffith, well, we'll just have to be patient. Alright, so where does that leave us? Does the God Hand really fear Griffith, or is it just a baseless theory? I don't think we have a clean answer yet. In fact, I don't think what they feel is fear. Think of it as losing control over something the four of them have orchestrated over centuries. That said, we'd love to hear your thoughts on where the next chapter might lead, so if you think I'm way off base with any of the speculation in this video, be sure to drop yours in the comments section down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to get a lot more of this sort of thing. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and as always,
No, you see, I don't think you're off, brother. You see, no, I don't think you're off base. I think you're right on point. And yeah, man. So I think it's oh, that sounds highly plausible, man, because of the story of this, because of the story of Berserk, and the nature of it. Like, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it was set up like that. If the God Hand basically just created like a big giant like cage for him, from the thing that enough room for him to think that he's creating his own little uh his own little toy planet, his own little toys, his own little toy kingdom, as they was mocking him. But I'm like, okay, well, that may be possible where they could be doing that, but yeah, I would say, that I would say that, man, that shit is kind of hilarious and popping up, checking his ass, and making sure that he don't go too overboard to basically to try to get enough power, muster up enough power to try to overthrow them type of shit. Or it could be a situation where, where Griffith could be telling them, hey, buzz off, let me do my thing. And you guys do your function. So, but yeah, this story, man, just getting heated. So, um, haven't heard nothing yet from him about from the anime, Marvelous anime, of when the next chapter of Berserk is going to be coming out. So I'll be waiting for that as well. So, but in the meantime, yeah, we got to continue moving forward with other projects, especially the anime night that I said I was gonna host here soon. So yeah, I will be doing that, and also I'll be doing a project that involves ODJ, O'Shea Duke Jackson. So yeah, it's something that I told him I was going to do for him, in his honor, So yeah, to the degree to give him a shout out. So yeah, but yeah, he came out with some with some hilarious videos, man, this year. So yeah, but until then, I'll be giving this our Berserk intro that I forgot to give, and I'll be giving our outro. So here we go. All right, you guys, if that was for the Berserk, that we just covered. Hey, as a Berserk fan, yeah, I had to get that in there. But yeah, peace and blessings to you guys. Thank you guys for coming through and enjoying with me in this edition of the Geekverse here in the Hama Force. Please hit the like, share, subscribe, and follow the Rumble. The link should be there in the chat as well. And yeah, if you have any ideas, anything you'd like for me to cover, throw that in the comment section too as well. And yeah, so hopefully my audio is good on my end, and we're good. So, but I appreciate you guys dearly, and please hit the cash out, the Blessed Alma Force, which should be there also in the description and in the chat. And yeah, so if you got any good AI ideas and anything related to what's going on with AI or any tech news or whatever, you can send my way too as well. So yes, that is part of the Geekverse as well. All right, so thank you, appreciate it. One verse a million. I'm not your fan. I'm not your stand for. I am brother.